Hey, did you see my stuff?
She asked with tears in her eyes. No, I didn't. I swear I didn't. Despite his desperate denial, it only served to make her angrier. You don't have to lie. Her anger was justified. I had seen some of her private belongings. My name is Luke Gallagher. I'm 24 years old. Just your average guy, a second-year employee in the workforce. I went to college like anyone else, graduated, and secured a job in an ordinary company. If there's anything out of the ordinary, it might be the fear factor of the director in the company I work for. It seems the director has a certain technique. It's called the tap of demotion. Apparently, if the director pats you on the shoulder one day, it means you're about to be demoted, a horrifying concept indeed. But being a regular office worker like me, I doubt I'll even get a chance to have a chat with the director, let alone a shoulder tap. Never would I have imagined I'd find myself in such an extraordinary situation, not until it happened. It happened one evening after work. As I arrived at my apartment and was about to unlock the door, I heard a woof from behind. Whoa! I couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, despite it being late in the evening. I hastily covered my mouth. Shoot, I was too loud. As I turned around with this thought, to my surprise, there was a golden retriever standing there. Whoa! Despite covering my mouth, I let out another yell. Okay, it's late at night. No matter what happens, I won't be surprised. With that thought, I slowly approached the dog. Hey, whose dog are you? A resident's pet. This apartment building allows pets, so the dog must belong to one of the residents. What should I do with this dog? As I was pondering about what to do, I suddenly heard a loud noise, the sound of a door being forcefully opened, and a female voice called out, Elena, you're back. Oh! Almost startled into raising my voice again by the sudden woman's voice, I remembered my resolve to not yell and somehow restrained myself. The woman was likely the occupant of the next-door apartment. She usually walks out every morning wearing the uniform of a prestigious local private school, so she must be a high school student. This high school girl was calling the dog by what seemed to be its name. So, this means, is this your dog, by any chance? As I turned to ask, I was surprised by the woman's appearance. Oh my God! I couldn't help but exclaim, and my hand went not to my mouth, but my eyes, because she was in her underwear, with only a shabby jersey thrown over. Moreover, she was wearing large, black-rimmed glasses, and her hair was tied up at the top of her head, swaying with each movement. Surprised to be seen in such a state, she too exclaimed, "Bah, ah!" Hastily pulled the dog, named Elena, into her house, and quickly shut the door with a loud bang. Left alone, I mumbled, What was that? Stunned, after a moment, I decided I should go inside my apartment for now, and finally went into my apartment. The next morning, as usual, I stepped out to go to work. That's when I realized, this time of the day, I heard a loud noise from next door, the sound of a door being shut. I reluctantly turned to look at the next apartment. When I turned around, there she was, immaculately dressed in her school uniform, without her glasses, probably wearing contacts, and her hair let down in silky waves. Her face was flushed, clearly embarrassed. Feeling the awkward silence, I couldn't help but to break it, stuttering, You found your puppy, that's good news.
Thank you. Did you rescue her?
A middle-aged man, I'm only 24. Feeling slightly wounded by her referring to me as a middle-aged man, I reasoned that to a high school girl, a 24-year-old might indeed seem old. I replied to her question, well, not exactly rescue, but I happened to be around when she needed help.
That alone means a lot to me. Elena and I just moved here recently. She ran away during a walk in an unfamiliar neighborhood. If you hadn't been there to stop her, I'm sure she would have run away again. Thank you so much.
Just as she bowed deeply in gratitude, something must have slipped out of her loosely closed backpack. Something fell out and fluttered to the ground at my feet. Something fell out, I said as I bent down to pick it up. She quickly snatched it away from me with a panicked expression, shouting, "No." Then she asked me,
Did you see it?
her face was on the verge of tears. No, I didn't see anything. Despite my desperate reassurances, she snapped, "You don't have to lie." I couldn't blame her for getting angry. After all, I had seen it. Her test papers, covered in bold, red markings of 24, 17, and the highest number I could see was probably 41. Even at a glance, I could tell.
You saw my test papers, didn't you?
I felt increasingly awkward as she asked me this, her face redder than when I had seen her the day before, and mumbled an apology. I'm sorry. Even though it was beyond my control. Pointing at my face with a still flushed complexion, she demanded,
When you finish work, treat me coffee at the cafe near the station.
Was that her way of letting it slide? I didn't quite understand, but there was nothing I could do about what I'd already seen. All right, got it? And that's how I ended up being asked to buy coffee for a high school girl after work. When work was over and I headed to the cafe near the station as she'd asked, she was already waiting in front of the cafe. When she saw me, she cheerfully waved and called out, "Hey, over here, mister." I felt embarrassed as she called me Mr. loudly, drawing the attention of those around us, and hurried over to her. "I'm Luke Gallagher, so call me Luke outside. I'm only 24, you know," I pleaded, hurt by being referred to as an old man. To this, she looked a bit surprised, but after seeing my serious expression, she relented. "Okay, Luke. So, she's calling me by my first name now. Well, that's fine." We entered the cafe together. I ordered a coffee, and she ordered some kind of frap. She even asked me to order a piece of cake, and the two of us were now sitting at our table. The awkwardness was palpable, probably due to the events of the previous night and that morning. What's her name anyway? Remembering this, I decided to ask her. By the way, what's your name?
I'm Jessica Wins. And Luke, how much of my test paper did you see?
Jessica, wait, she almost said Mr. again, didn't she? I remembered the incident from this morning. What I saw was big red numbers like 27, 17, and 41. Upon hearing this, Jessica fell flat on the table and wailed, "You saw everything. My test scores." So, those were her test scores. They are pretty low.
That's why I said I didn't want to go to a prep school. A public school would have been just fine.
It's true that the school Jessica attends is known not only as a prestigious school, but also a college preparatory one with a high academic reputation. So why did you decide to go to that high school? When I asked, Jessica responded with a pouty face.
My dad told me to go there. I am the heir after all.
Oh, you're the heir? So that means Jessica's parents must be running a business.
But you'd understand if you saw my test scores, right? They don't match up. And yet, when my dad saw my test scores, he got really angry. I was so upset. I ran away from home with Alina.
Ran away? You mean, you said you just moved. Did you move here all by yourself?
Yeah, so what?
But there's no way a minor can sign a lease and live alone.
Well, that apartment is owned by my dad.
Seeing Jessica's nonchalant attitude, I was surprised and said, really? No, that's not the point. Don't your parents worry about you? You should pack up and go home right away. Trying to calmly advise her.
No way. I don't care if I get expelled because of my bad test scores. I have something I want to do too.
Something you want to do?
I want to be a veterinarian. I absolutely don't want to take over my dad's business.
Oh, that's a great dream. Having a dream is a good thing. doesn't that mean you have to study even harder?
But even if I study hard, my dream won't come true.
You don't know that. If you have a dream you want to realize, you have to try everything you can. Have you talked to your dad about it?
I haven't, but it's impossible. I'm an only child, and I'm told to take over.
I wonder if it's a family business. With that thought in mind, I came up with an idea. In that case, when you grow up and meet a wonderful man, why don't you have him marry into your family? Then he could take over, right? I don't think it'll go that smoothly, but it's worth considering as an option. As I said that, Jessica's eyes sparkled.
I hadn't thought of that. That's right. There's no need to stick with me. All that matters is having someone from the family to take over.
Convinced, Jessica said, "I'll tell my dad. See you, Luke," and quickly drained her drink and left the cafe, as if embodying the phrase "strike while the iron is hot." I was continuously surprised by the whirlwind that is Jessica. What an amazing girl. Muttering that, I also finished my coffee and left the cafe. A few days later, I left the house at the usual time that day, but Jessica, who was supposed to leave at the same time, didn't show up. I hadn't heard any noise since last night, so I figured she must have gone to her parents' house. Even though we didn't talk much, given her personality, I'm sure she must have argued her point to her father. Imagining that scenario, I thought it was just like Jessica, and I chuckled. Keep working hard to make your dream come true. And then, just like always, I went to work and did my job. As I was focusing on my work, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Huh, is someone calling me? Thinking that, I stopped my work for a moment and looked behind me. When I saw who it was, I turned pale, because standing there was Director.
Hey, you've been working hard. You're Gallagher, right?
It was that director. Yes, the director known for his shoulder tap of reassignment. I just got a shoulder tap from the director, which means, am I being reassigned? Whether or not the director knew about my panic, he smiled at me and said, "You'll come, right?" With no room for refusal in his smile, all I could do was nod and say, "Yay, des." I was led by the director to the CEO's office. Did I mess something up? Luke wonders, entering the CEO's office with trepidation over an unexpected demotion he has no recollection of. "CEO, I've brought him. This is Luke Gallagher," the director reports to the CEO.
Thank you. You can go back now."
Yes, excuse me.
As the director leaves, Luke grows even more anxious. Sensing his unease, the CEO shows him a gentle smile.
"No need to be so tense. Actually, you had a visitor, and I asked the director to bring you here."
"A visitor for me? Who is it?" In response to his question, the CEO reaches for the door that leads to the adjacent room.
"They're in the reception room next door. Please, go in."
The CEO opens the door for him, and Luke bows lightly in gratitude before entering the reception room. "Excuse me?" Upon entering the reception room, he finds an unfamiliar man in his late 50s. The man, upon seeing Luke, studies him closely. "Oh, you must be Luke Gallagher." Yes, and you are?"
Sorry for the late introduction. I am Thomas Ince, CEO of ISM Holdings. I've been doing business with your CEO.
Ince, I've heard that name somewhere. Recalling the familiar name, Luke thinks of Jessica's face. Could it be you are?
Correct. I am Jessica's father. My daughter must have troubled you.
No, not at all. I had no idea she was the daughter of the CEO of ISM Holdings. I am terribly sorry for my ignorance. ISM Holdings. It's a major client for our company. Jessica, no, Miss Jessica, is a genuine young lady of high status, and I have seen her in her undergarments, seen her failing test papers, and even given unsolicited advice, considering I am older. What an impertinence I've shown. Could this be the reason for my demotion? Amidst my turmoil at the arrival of CEO Ince, he seems amused at my reaction.
Actually, I have a favor to ask you today.
A favor? To be blunt, CEO Ince starts, his tone hinted at something more significant. Could I be demoted for being rude to his daughter?
My daughter wants to work hard at her current school, in return for giving up being my successor. She says she wants to be a vet. You're the one who inspired her, aren't you?
Saying that, CEO Ince looks at me with piercing eyes. I should have just lied and said it was better to be a successor. Just because I talked a little with the CEO's daughter, could I be demoted? My ordinary and stable life is over. While I despair alone, CEO Ince suddenly bows deeply, and then, from him, an unexpected phrase emerges.
Thank you. My daughter, who I thought had no dreams, actually had a proper one. I felt my own adequacy while being moved by her growth. I wanted her to be my successor if she had no dreams. But if she has dreams, I want to support her. You're the one who gave her that opportunity. Thank you very much.
I didn't do anything. I just advised her to do what she can if she has a dream and to communicate well. Simple advice.
That advice is something I couldn't give. I am full of gratitude for you. Thank you very much.
Please, don't bow your head like that, CEO Ince. Instead, I'm truly sorry for resulting in you losing your successor. It feels rather uneasy for a low-level employee like me to be bowed to by the CEO. In response to CEO Ince, I also bowed deeply.
Losing a successor, well, it's quite a blow, to be honest. I'm sorry to ask this after thanking you, but I need you to take responsibility for that as well.
I thought so. I'm going to be held accountable, probably through demotion. Accepting it as inevitable, I brace myself. I'm prepared to accept whatever disposition awaits me. At that, CEO Ince bursts out laughing.
I see. Well, I feel relieved if someone like you is there.
Could the ongoing demotion of a person really be something that amusing? As I was pondering over this, CEO Ince slapped me on the shoulder. Another shoulder slap. I had grown tired of the director's constant shoulder pats, and I had the feeling that this one didn't bode well. Ince, the CEO, started to speak.
As my daughter's fiancé and my successor, come work at our company.
I was prepared to accept any treatment that came my way. So when Ince asked me, I replied, yes, without much thought. It was only afterward that I realized, but fiancé, successor.
Yes. I asked my daughter what we should do about the successor, and she told me she planned to marry her boyfriend someday and wanted him to take over. I thought it was a good idea.
No, just because she said that, making me the candidate is. You must have better candidates, right?
Well, even if my strong-willed daughter has a boyfriend, I doubt there are many who would not only marry her but also agree to become a successor.
Indeed? I grimaced at Ince's words. Given her feisty nature, anyone who got involved with her would be in for a rough ride. She was known for dramatically moving out at the drop of a hat. No, number just because of that, it doesn't mean I should be the one. Shouldn't you prioritize your daughter's feelings? Becoming the fiancé of a CEO's daughter from such a large corporation was too intimidating. I was trying to subtly refuse, but CEO Ince, grinning as if he wouldn't let me escape, started to massage my shoulder.
The one who nominated you was my daughter, Jessica. She sent a message through me.
A message. Take responsibility for seeing that. Now, what could that be? At this point, Ince's expression turns stern. Upon hearing that, I recalled the shabby sweatpants and the failed test paper. Which one was Jessica's that? Either way, I didn't have the courage to answer that in front of CO Ince. Haha, I'd be delighted to accept your proposal. And thus, instead of being demoted, I found myself switching to a major corporation. And not just that, I also ended up as the fiancé and successor to the CEO's daughter. Because I happened to see that of the high school girl living next door, my life took a turn for the extraordinary from what should have been a normal life. 6 years later, the high school girl who used to live next door had become my wife, sitting beside me. She had achieved her dream of becoming a veterinarian. Speaking of which, I asked Jessica, "Why were you almost naked that time, wearing only a tattered jersey top?" Upon hearing my question, Jessica answered without any hint of embarrassment.
That, I had just gotten out of the bath. I heard Alina crying while I was changing, so I rushed out in a hurry.
So that's why you were dressed like that. But didn't you have something better to wear? As I grumbled, Jessica chuckled. Because I left home suddenly, I only had that to change into. It was my middle school jersey, and besides, Jessica gave me a mischievous smile.
You'd feel more comfortable than some overdressed lady, right?
Comfortable with whom?
It's a secret.
At Jessica's smile, all I could do was return a bitter smile. Rich people sure are scary.